Shifu is a character that we have mentioned in several previous videos that I strongly recommend you to watch. From all these words I said about him, you can get the impression that he is a bad father. And this impression is actually correct. He is really a bad father. But why is he a bad father and how could he act to be a good father? Today I want to discuss this topic. Let's start with a little bit of excuse for Shifu. He really didn't have to take custody of Tai Lung because he was dropped off at the Jade Palace. So it wasn't really his decision to have a child, but rather the circumstances themselves forced him to become a father. Which suggests that he did not have to be a father at all if he didn't want to, as for example with Tigress. But the problem was that he wanted it and became a father to Tai Lung, which in this case is a clear choice and acceptance of all responsibility. And from that moment on, Shifu can be fully evaluated as a father. Shifu's big problem was that he did not distinguish parenting from teaching. He tried to mold Tai Lung into some kind of doll, a role model he personally liked, which is actually a fairly common problem in society. Children are often perceived by parents as a project that need to be managed to meet their needs first and foremost. Some people cover up their complexes or failures in this way. They want the child to be what they would like to be, but for some reason did not become, or to achieve something they could not achieve. Someone wants to have power over the life of another person and therefore control the most vulnerable person in front of them in this regard. Someone is too afraid of everything, so it is more convenient to impose all that fear on their child, because they're afraid that in the future their children will pull them out of their comfort zone. Of course, this is all done purely for their own comfort. Prohibitions, punishments, guidance of what to do, what not to do, how to think, how to behave, and for some reason they all forget that a child is also a person, the same person with the same rights, desires and feelings. Children is not the property of the parents and does not owe anything to the parents. Parents, as adults, have taken on such a great responsibility, and they have to devote their lives from this moment to help their child grow up to be a healthy member of society. If any person is not ready to be a parent, it is absolutely normal. In this case, you just shouldn't have a child, at least until you are ready. Shifu in turn perceived Tai Lung as a project that will fulfill what Shifu himself once wanted but could not. For example, to become a dragon warrior. All Shifu did all this time was guiding Tai Lung. Tai Lung actually is a complete reflection of Shifu, a very pure reflection. Because besides Shifu and his upbringing, Tai Lung had almost nothing else in his life. So yes, okay, Shifu is a bad father, but what should he have done to become a good father in conclusion? Here we will return to the general problem of parenting. You need to understand that child is not a thing, but important person who has everything in him or her already. They don't need to be controlled, they need support, help, guidance and advice if they ask for it, and of course love and care. And at the same time, parents should keep in mind that child does not have to thank for all of this. Of course he can if he wants, but he should not be grateful just for the fact that the parent chose to give birth to him. This is their and only their responsibility for everything that will happen after this decision. And I understand where this problem comes from. It's just because that most people think that they must have children, each and every one of them. The constant imposition that it is necessary or how can you be without it, without children, creates this problem where most parents are the people who cannot explain why they have a child. It's just a must. And in this case, of course, they think that the child is a burden and put themselves in the position of a victim. Like, be grateful that I am at least providing you with food as a burden that was imposed on me. These parents are looking for a problem not in the people who impose them to have children, but in the children themselves. Which makes no sense, but it is true and it is sad. And the fact that it is difficult is obvious. Parenthood is a very complex and multifaceted process, incredibly important process. But when person is a really parental adult figure, who understands the influence he or she has on their child and the responsibilities they have, Proper parenting is when a person is not a leader but a companion who will guide their child through all aspects of life, all paths that the child wants to take, and will not go ahead but will be a strong and safe support behind. Support is not only in basic needs such as food or house. In theory, if a person has children, he or she could be at least of average income, so that child has as fewer financial woes as possible. It is also imperative that a person is in healthy psychological state and consciously approach this. Taking care of a child is not a burden but a desire of healthy parents. If you don't have this desire, then you shouldn't even have a cat with this approach, like any other pet. Shifu had to talk to Tai Lung and talk a lot. He had to be a good example and support for such an ambitious and full of energy son. He definitely shouldn't have told him that he will become someone in the future. You can't say such things to the children, because you just close all this wide view of the world they have at that moment. Only a child has the right to choose his own future. And in general, of course, he shouldn't have treated Tai Lung as a project that they were both working on. I understand that he is a Kung Fu master who usually engage in training, and only training. But fatherhood is not Kung Fu, and Tai Lung is first and foremost a son who needs care. I think because Shifu is very strict and not very intellectually or emotionally developed, he approached fatherhood as he did his mastery. So basically he was just a master for Tai Lung, but at the same time he was a father. Which might not be very important for Shifu, but it definitely was very important for Tai Lung. Because as he said, all he wanted was to make Shifu proud of him, which means he wanted warmth and care from his father. He wanted to hear praise for all his achievements. He just wanted to hear warm words from his father. Is that so much to ask? No, it's not. But all he got was a new set of training and evaluation of everything he had achieved until he got the scroll. And possibly it was not for Tai Lung at all, but for Shifu himself and his ego. For example, like he was the only one who trained the Dragon Warrior. Or of course, maybe he wanted to do good for Tai Lung, but didn't understand how to do it. So in conclusion, he only made things worse and worse. In all this case, in conclusion, all he should do is not to become a father to him if he couldn't be one. And possibly he did the right thing when at least he didn't let Tigress get as close to him as Tai Lung, whom he used as a doll and threw away when the doll broke.